So we have always talked about risks, and let's spend the last few minutes that we have looking at these different trends that we've discussed, but now in the context of what are the risks that they pose, and what are the risks for businesses, and what are the risks for the world.
So a while back, I was speaking on a panel in locally here in Chicago, and one of the things that I observed in response to a question, I don't actually remember the question, but I do remember what I said in response, was that everybody you talk to in this kind of space wants to go fast until they can. And then you start to see what the actual gating factors of changing things in a business or a market or an economy actually are. And there's a lot of inertia built in and a lot of familiarity with the way things are, homeostasis, that are very difficult to significantly disrupt without effectively breaking everything. And while we can afford to do that in little pieces here and there, and we will do that in little pieces here and there, trying to do it in big pieces would be very risky for all kinds of social and economic reasons. So I see that as a big risk, that we will try and do more than we're able to absorb from a management of rate of change perspective.
Just from a blanket perspective in
Yeah,
all different areas.
yeah.
Yeah,
And a lot of what we do now, it could be better, but 5% better, not 100% better.
yeah,
So if we focused on the areas where we for sure could make a big difference, they would be much narrower, much more likely to be successful, and therefore much less risky. But there is a danger. I remind people that back in 2000, when the dot-com crash happened, the global economy burned roughly $800 billion of value in 18 months. Just threw it away on dot-coms. The telecom industry burned $3 trillion of value,
yeah.
which nobody was paying any attention to. And we could do that again. Back then, it was a $65, $70 trillion global economy. Now it's a $120 trillion global economy. So arguably our ability to do damage has been magnified by the growth of the global economy. And we really ought to pay more attention to the risks associated with that, because the things we break now are much more intertwined and complexly important than they were 25 years ago.
Yeah, a definite theme of mine in just looking at the interconnectedness of systems, of infrastructures, and of people, and the rapidity and of where communication is occurring, and those interconnections are obvious and evident, have massive implications in terms of when disruptive events happen or when things fail.
Right, right. And those kinds of changes have consequences, and they're not always well understood or thought out in advance, not always even visible in advance.